So that's one reason we've continued to move forward and keep these assessments in our system. The last 2 years, the design of the MARS has stayed the same. However, the content has been aligned to the Common Core standards, and so the level of rigor that our students are expected to engage in is extremely more difficult than it has been in past MARS assessments. And this year was probably twice as hard as it was last year. So I'm sure these guys will all verify. Will all verify that. Okay. Knowing that, before I share with you our data, I want to give you some data that all of the people in the room also contributed to. In the last week of March and the first week of April, we scored 5,200 student exams. That included over 2,300 papers individually. The teachers that were released from their classrooms this year to help us with this work, there were 86 of them. That included 15 first grade teachers who came after school to score first grade exams with us as well. We had 19 district teachers and our math coaches who led scoring sessions. In addition, some of those scoring leaders took exams home and did them on their own time as well. It's a huge undertaking. And then we also had 3 classified employees help us with all the data entry and copying the audited papers so that they can be audited with the rest of the students who take the MARS exams. Our results this year, we had some encouraging ones and some discouraging ones, but I can't say that, I don't mean discouraging in a way that I'm disappointed. It shows us where we are in this type of assessment system and what's coming. The 4th grade this year, we actually had an increase. And in algebra, we also had an increase. Our general math 8th grade stayed the same. And in every other area, we had a decrease. So we also district-wide had a decrease. So this really reflects the difference in the assessments that we're transitioning towards, as well as the content and the level of rigor that our students are going to be expected to be proficient in. So I wanted to share with you an example, which is why I brought you some of these tasks. And on your PowerPoint handouts, there's only a snippet of the task, but I gave you a copy of the entire task. So one area that we had some success in and some difficulty is in geometry. And so what I've shared with you, the first task, this is a 4th grade task. And I selected these tasks because they show the progression across the grades, but they also show that every one of these tasks are asking students to justify and explain their thinking. And on the CST exam, students aren't asked to do that. They're only selecting A, B, C, or D. So there's a shift with that. So this is an example of the 4th grade task where they're asked to compare 2 data sets and then look at a 3rd set and decide what matches the rule and to give a justification for that. This is the last question on a 7th grade task. And essentially, we're asking students to provide a geometric proof for angle PXZ being equal to ABC. And you have the whole task there in front of you. So I think for 7th grade, this is pretty hard stuff, especially when our current 7th grade California standards don't have anything like this in them. All they do in 7th grade right now is they do some similarity with proportional reasoning with triangles, and they start to learn about the Pythagorean theorem. But other than that, they don't have anything at this level. So it's a big leap when you look at what they were doing in 4th grade compared to what they'll be doing in 7th grade. And this is the 8th grade exam. This is also the last question on the 8th grade task that you have in front of you, asking students to justify how they know what type of triangle the triangle inscribed in the rectangle is. And I don't expect you to solve that right now. Okay, but I did want to share with you that this is the progression. So In the Mars task this year, there were geometry tasks. Every test has 5 tasks in it. And there was one that was about geometry in 2nd, 4th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. In 2nd grade and 4th grade, our students did really well. And in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, our students struggled. And the type of geometry students are being asked to do right now in grades 6, 7, and 8 is extremely different than what they're going to be asked to do and be assessed on in 2 years. So this helps us think about where we need to support our teachers, our students, us. We need professional development, as well as our family and our parent communities. And so some plans that we have for next year is we do have professional development scheduled already for pre-K through 8th grade teachers and administrators. In the fall, I came and shared with you about a project we have with the Lawrence Hall of Science for Math and English Language Development, and we've been given that grant again to continue our work next year for 5th through 8th grade students. So this will help us with the language component of student justification and then accessing the mathematics. We have revised our math benchmark assessments next year to be only Mars task, so that they'll have more experience with those types of assessments. We've also revised the pacing guides to include Mars task every couple weeks, so that there's more opportunities for students to have those types of experiences. And then we also have plans on supporting our sites and communicating with the parent communities as we move forward and inform our parents as well.
Great. Thanks. Got any questions, Ms. Brizuela?
No.
All right.
What's the answer?
Mr. Osayi?
Can I have the answer to these? No, just kidding.
I
No.
finished the questions up to page 7.
I'm very happy that we're looking forward to getting everything on task, and hope that will help our students.
In the beginning, you, this is actually something I didn't know. You said that the National Common Core standards were originated by the Governors Association, and what was the other group? State boards of what?
The supervisors, so superintendents, and Bernie might be able to speak more to that, who's a part of that group. But it's not a federal initiative like some people think. It was
Right.
initiated by other organizations, and then it was federally supported afterwards with the Race to the Top funding,
that's-
and the 2 assessment consortia were also federally funded, so the Smarter Balanced and the PARC consortia.
So the funding came from, all right. And the professional development, what is that going to look like? I mean, what kind of professional development is there going to be?
So,
Teachers, right?
sorry. This is not my realm, I guess. Sorry, my backside.
That's why you
to
stay to the
guys.
side.
So last year we had a couple days before school started just introducing the idea to teachers at all grade levels, and we engaged teachers in problem solving so that we can all experience what our students need to experience.
All right, yeah.
And the premise that the people who support this work, that our advice has been, is that in order to clearly communicate a paradigm shift, we all need to experience the paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And so we're providing lots of experiences in those trainings where we have to do the math, and then we connect it to what are those math practices that I referred to, because those are the biggest change. The content doesn't change as much, it just may be in different grade levels, and there's less of it. So our big focus has been on the practices and things we've had, looking at student data, which we have done through the benchmarks, which we've done through with the Mars task over time. That is also something that's built into the Common Core. So we have a lot of structures in place in our district already. We just
Right.
need to change how we're using some of them. Teachers working together, principals working together, all of us working together, and professional learning communities is also something that will support our transition that we're trying to develop capacity around.
All right, and this will be conducted or facilitated by Ms. McCulick, or you have some outside agencies?
By Mr. Muffin. No.
All right, so he'll be providing this professional.
It's by all of us.
All right, great. All the coaches, everyone.
The
all right.
coaches, the coordinators, our partnership with the Silicon Valley Math Initiative that we've had We've been getting training as coaches for the last 3 years in the Common Core through our
Oh.
networking.
All right, thanks. Do I have any questions, Joe?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And more about the Common Core, this time assessments and technology.
So I do have some PowerPoints. Ms. Kessler, if you could pass that on up. So I'm going to build upon what Ms. Borda shared with you about the Common Core. I'm going to include English Language Arts as well. But I also want to talk with you about the assessments, the Smarter Balance Assessment Consortium, SBAC, and the technology that is embedded in the curriculum, not the curriculum, but into the Common Core, as well as the standards, as well as how it's going to be assessed. So just want to show you that quote again.
Yeah.
This really is the essence. We really need to prepare our students for the 21st century, college and career. We are currently preparing students for jobs that don't yet exist, using technologies that haven't been invented in order to solve problems we don't even know our problems yet. So that's really what we're working towards. And so Ms. Porter mentioned the 4 claims, and so I shared this with you last time, the different quadrants of how the current CST standards are in just that recall, that basic knowledge quadrant, but Smarter Balance and the Common Core, Smarter Balance is assessing the Common Core standards, which address more rigor and relevance. And so I shared this with you last time, but I wanted to bring it back so that you recalled it. So Ms. Porter shared a lot about the math and the key shifts in math, so I wanted to share with you a little bit about English Language Arts and how they also have some shifts in reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And so in reading, there's more attention to text complexity, and there's a balance of literature and informational text. So to give you a little background on text complexity is how difficult the reading or the passage is. And so what they do is they look at 2 things. They look at sentence length and word frequency to get a Lexile score. And so if you look at high school literature, the Lexile score that's kind of in the middle range is between 850 and 950. And sorry, 750 and 950. If you look at college literature, these are your novels. It's a little bit higher. You look at high school textbooks, this is your science, your social studies, your informational text, it's even higher on the Lexile band. College textbooks jumps up, and then you look at military. The military reading materials that they have is in a very small band, but it's a lot higher than the high school and college literature, even the high school textbooks. Our own personal use, when we're looking at manuals, how to fix something, if we're reading, an article in the newspaper, any kind of personal use, it's a lot higher than what our current high school and college literature and textbooks. Entry-level occupations are also up there, and then the SAT, the ACT, the advanced placement, getting into college, the text level is up there. So in order for our students to be college and career ready, the minimum proficiency Lexile we need is 1200. So you can just kind of see where we are and where we need to go. So back to the key shifts, not only do we need it in writing, in reading we need it in writing. Students will need to argue, not just in English Language Arts, but also in math. They have to explain their thinking, and they need to be able to do that coherently. They need to be able to express themselves, and so that's another shift. We also are looking at speaking and listening, and this is the piece that I want to focus on today, is the media sources, integrating media sources, technology across all the standards. There's no technology standards anymore. They're embedded in all the different English Language Arts, math, etc. So we don't have currently we have technology standards that are separate. They're not separate anymore. They're built in. So you can see, as an example of the media sources, we have for reading standard for informational text, 6th grade, you can see that it is different media that you have to look. It could be audio visual, it could be like a video, or it could be internet. Writing standards use technology, including the internet, and then demonstrating keyboarding skills. And you'll see samples of how students are assessed, because that's how they will need those keyboarding skills as well as within the standards. So to give you a closer look at how that technology is embedded in the Common Core, we're going to look at the Writing Standard, the Writing Standard 6. And so starting in kindergarten, in the foundations, kindergarten, it says, with guidance and support from adults, explore a variety of digital tools to produce and publish writing, including in collaboration with peers. In first grade and second grade, that guidance and support, but this time it's to use a variety of digital tools. And then in third grade, they say use technology using keyboarding skills. So these are your foundations. And they want to interact and collaborate with others. So interacting with the digital tools and technology. And then we get into our proficiency levels. Fourth grade, same thing with guidance and support. Use technology, this time including the internet. And then to interact with others, to demonstrate sufficient command of keyboarding skills. So keyboarding is going to be pretty important in the next, through Common Core. And they want keyboarding skills to be able to type a minimum of 1 page in a single sitting. Fifth grade, 2 pages in a single sitting, and sixth grade, 3 pages in a single sitting. And then we get to our advanced level. Seventh grade, use technology, including the internet, to link to and cite sources. So you need to be able to say where the information is coming from and making sure, is it a reliable source? Where is it, the information? And interacting with others using technology. And eighth grade, similar, it's that the relationship with information and ideas. So you can just see how it progressed through just one strand, and that's just one example. So in Common Core, technology is not only embedded in the standards, it is used also to assess the standards. So that's what I want to show you today. So what is it going to look like? So I did some screenshots. Right now, actually, anyone can go on to smarterbalance.org and take a practice test for any grade level. So this is a screenshot of the sample, the guest page. It shows guests, you just sign in. And so you can see that students would need to enter their name and their state ID as well as their session ID, because that's what grade level they are, et cetera. Here's a sample of what it will look like. This will be on a computer. So the students, this is a 4th grade English Language Arts test question. So you can see on the left side is a passage about Grandma Ruth. The passage is actually longer than the screenshot. You can see that the scroll bar is here. So students will need to know how to scroll and look at the passage, to read the entire passage. And then they'll have to answer this question and type in their response. So they'll not only have to type in their response, but they have to use details from the text. So they have to go back in the text, and that's part of the rigor, making sure that they address what's in the text when they answer the question. The very next question would take the same passage and then have this, where they say, read these sentences that they pulled from the passage and then answer the question. They underline the word scarred, so what they need to do is click on 2 phrases from the paragraph that help you understand the meaning of scarred. So I did a sample here where they just put their mouse over or if it's a touchpad, they click on that phrase and it highlights it, and they have to pick 2. It won't let you move on until you pick 2. And we had 2 schools pilot, so we got to kind of see what they were doing and the difficulty. So they need to know how to navigate a mouse as well. And to give you an example of that question I just showed you, what the rubric looks like, they have 2 possible points they could get. So if there were lots of choices that had 2 answers to show what scarred meant. So if they chose any 2 of these, they would get 2 points. If they only picked 1, they would get 1 point. And if they didn't pick any, or they picked wrong ones, they would have no points. So it's not just 1 for 1 anymore. Here's another example of English Language Arts literacy. There's a video. This is actually a video, so the students would have to play the video. Every student is actually at different parts and different times on the computer, so they would need headphones so that they don't disturb each other, which we learned the hard way in one of our pilot tests. And then they have a question, and this is a multiple choice question. So, why does the video compare being in space to lying in bed? So they have to know by listening. So this is a speaking and listening standard that's being tested. And then they would take that same video and ask them to explain why exercise is important based on the video. And they have to use details from the video to support their answer.
What grade is that?
I believe that one was 4th grade as well. I think I picked a lot of 4th grade. But they have a lot of different samples. These were actually release questions. These were not from the practice, because they released them and they also have practice. Here's for math. So this one is a number line, number sense. We want to make sure that students understand number sense. And so there's lots of emphasis on the number line. And so this one over here, they have to identify which of these equals the same point on the line. So they have to answer yes or no for each one. So it's not just a one answer. So for A, is this one the same as this? So they click yes or no and move on. And then sometimes the next question would be, explain your answer, explain why. So not just in English language arts do you have to explain your thinking in math and type it in. Here's another example, just to show the technology. The student would have to click on this little juice bottle here and drag it into the appropriate bag to show which one, how many of these they could put into a bag, click it in, to show which one was between 10 pounds and 11 pounds.
I like this one.
So this one wouldn't work because if you had two, it would be too many, et cetera. So you can sign on to the practice test. Anyone can sign on. As I said, the practice test is computer adaptive. So it's every student would have a different question at start, and so they would go at their own pace. And depending on how you answered a question, it would go to a different question next. So if you got a question right, then it might go to a harder question, or if you got it wrong, it would go to a lower level question to see what you do actually know. So we saw students that do the pilot test that had 45 questions, and we saw students that had 59 questions. So it just really varied. So when are these going to be assessed? 2014, 2015 is the first year they're assessed. They will offer a paper and pencil for grace period for districts that are not ready for this yet, but it will eventually be online and everyone will need to take it. As I said, it's computer adaptive, which means you get immediate results, and these are measuring higher order thinking skills. So what will it look like in our district? You're going to see that we have, it's a one-on-one, one-to-one. You need a computer for every child taking the test. Doesn't mean we need one for every single child in the district. That's 6,000 plus computers, but, well, 4,000 with 3rd grade through 8th grade. But that means we need to have more technology for our students. So how are we going to prepare for this? What are we going to do about it? First thing we need to do is a technology needs assessment. So luckily, we were fortunate to pilot, so we kind of saw that we needed headphones and a mouse, or we felt a mouse would be easier to manipulate. It could be a touch device like an iPad, but we're thinking, possibly the laptop would be better because using the mouse is easier for little ones to manipulate. We need power strips. We need to make sure our wireless and our broadband and our bandwidth are up to date to be able to handle this. We figure we need a class set. You need one. The way it would work is you need to have one class in at a time. 35 students, at the most in a class, and so we figured if we did about 2 class sets at school, 29 class sets, 1,000 computers, district-wide. So not only needs assessment, we're then going to also consult with the County Office of Education with their STEM Center. STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And they have an instructional technology coordinator, and he's going to work with us to help us determine what do we need, how can we make this work. Other districts have already started working on this, so what are they doing? We don't want to just buy computers. We want to see, well, what's going to work, and not just for the assessment, for the technology embedded standards. And then we also need to make sure not only do we figure out what we need, then how are we going to provide professional development for our staff? And it would be through the Common Core trainings. We'll need to also provide how to take that SBAC test, that Smarter Balance test. And we also need to develop expertise within our district on coordinating this curriculum technology integration so that we can help support our students master these new standards. So one good thing is, I believe in the governor's proposal, he proposed $1 billion towards technology and professional development and instructional materials. And so I believe Ms. Kessler has included some of this in the budget. No? Okay, never mind. Oh, okay.
Yes, dependent on the budget.
Oh, we're waiting. Okay. Well, we'll need to include some of this in then. So here's some resources. The smarterbalance.org is the website that you can do the practice test. Core Standards is a website on Common Core, and our district website. We are, it's in construction, but we're working on a website, or a link or a page where we're going to have information about the Common Core for parents and teachers. So that's my summer project, one of. Any questions? Is there a speaker card?
Yes.
Saw you watching.
You want to go after Melinda?
I'll just say after, yeah.
All right. All right, Melinda Dart.
Okay, thank you. Melinda Dart, AFT 3267. I'm happy to move forward into the future, but the thing that's a little bit alarming about this, I think, is that the assessment comes before the standards. And it's hard to remember that the standards are not the assessment and that they're two different things. In a perfect world, I think we could, first get used to the standards and then a few years down the road be tested on them. But obviously, that's not happening. And I'm sorry that the assessment, the high-stakes test and the assessment piece is what everyone's going to think of when they think of Common Core now, because I would prefer that it were just about, in the beginning, about learning and adjusting and teaching new standards. But as far as the technology goes, I know it's a huge and expensive piece. And I think everyone is going to have to work hard. I think that we're going to need resources beyond what we have to bring in technology. I think it really cannot be just a set of computers that we use to take a test, because I think there's the keyboarding needs and the needs to be familiar, right, with the technology. So. The olden days when we had computer labs, that actually looks like it would be more useful even in a sense now, where you had a schedule and everyone went in and used computers at certain times. But I think that we're going to need, we're going to need a lot of laptops in the rooms, and students are going to need to get familiar with them and using them for research and keyboarding every day so that they are able to do this kind of assessment. So it's very daunting, I know, but hopefully with the help that I know that the board approved that, I can't remember the name or of the person who's going to come in and help with funding, but Encore, yeah. And I'm very glad the board approved that. I think we really need the help of some outside person who knows about finding fundraising and resources for this. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Ms. Dart.
Yeah, the state, they kind of did this backwards, too. They have the assessments, but we're still stuck in the old system of the CST, and then we have to move within a year to this new system. And so we are going to see this year, we'll probably see it next year, we're going to see some dipping in the scores because we're transitioning and trying to go towards this higher level thinking, which means we're not going to cover as much content, which is what the CST is testing us on. So we probably will see dipping of scores for the next couple of years. And then we're not going to see the Smarter Balance scores really high because we're still not used to that system. So I wish they would give us a little break and give us a year or two off so that we can't of the high stakes assessments so that we could really embrace this, but that's not the reality. So just be prepared for we are going to see some dips in our scores.
All right. That being said, within the time, that transition period, how important are the CST scores?
Well, we're still held accountable to them. We're still program improvement. But we are focusing our efforts and our professional development on the Common Core. So, and as Ms. Bordas mentioned, our benchmark assessments are, for math, we are not doing the curriculum associates as much as we did this past year. We're focusing only in Mars for math, and then we're just doing one for English language arts. So, and just really focusing on, I mean, we're trying to get to the Common Core assessment.
Is there any sense of when the CST will not be relevant anymore?
Next year. Next year's the last year of it.
All right.
So.
All right. Did you have any questions?
No,
I just had a comment. As you know, I'm a big believer in giving more autonomy to the classroom, to the teachers, bombarded with tests and scores. Also, understanding that this is a great opportunity for technology. I also want to say that technology is not a substitute for science, engineering, math in the classroom, which is taught by the teachers. And sometimes I wish we could, instead of money going to technology, we could give money to the teachers. But if that's how the governor is allocating the money. And also, what percentage of this money is important and how loud we make our voice together. So parents, teachers, administration, board members, we must fight loud and talk loud that if there is $1 billion out there, that we get our piece of the pie, if not more, so we could bring it to the classroom.
All right. Thanks. Item number 4, which was taken off of the consent agenda, agreement with Lozano Smith LLP for general legal and surplus property legal services for fiscal year 2013-14. Would this be Ms. Kessler or?
So, Mr. Otaide, you had a particular question
Yeah,
on this
just
item?
one, the $60,000, and then why we're agreeing to it, and then also I just following up on it seems like we give these guys a lot of money, and I'm just following up on what we talked about how much have we give Lozano Smith over the past? Is there like an annual? We spent $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 on legal fees with them. It's just wondering how much. Why do we always have to spend this amount of money on legal fees?
Well, as you know, we do not have a legal department in our school district, and many large school districts do have whole floors. One in particular to the north has a whole wing of their district office for legal. So small and medium school districts like ours rely on outside agencies to provide legal services because we still have the same needs. So here we're with Lozano Smith, we work with them on 3 particular areas. One is general legal, another one is surplus property, and the third one is special education services. We work with our county council as well, and county council also is a good place to start, and we often do start with them, but they're also very general in their expertise, and so when we need something more specific, we go to pursue some, where the expertise lies.
Got it.
So we haven't really exceeded, and I didn't get a chance to review how much we spent. I'd be happy to get that to you, what we spent to date. We have not exceeded the amount that the board has authorized. 60,000 seemed like a relatively comfortable place to get to. I don't know if Ms. Kessler, if you've had a chance to look at it more recently, if you know about how much we've used in those 3 categories. Not specifically, but altogether.
No, I don't. I do know it's under what was approved before, and also a while back, I believe we gave some information to the board showing the different areas and how much we had spent at that time. That was a few months ago, and I don't know what that would be today at this time.
And important to note is it's not a retainer fee, so to speak. We don't write them a check for this amount. It's just an authorization to go up to that amount. It's based on an hourly basis. And
$215 to $295 per hour, associate $165 to $225 per hour, law clerk $135 per hour, paralegal $110 per hour, educational consultant $125 per hour. And then I just
Exactly.
want to compare that to teachers per hour.
Exactly. And I know that when I recently had to pursue some hourly attorney thing, it was in the $400 to $500 range per hour that was charged to my family. So, they do try to do educational pricing. It's not much different than what the county council also charges us on the hourly rate, and that's what certainly is a lot cheaper than hiring a lawyer to work for our district. And if we were to hire a lawyer for property, and a lawyer for special education, and a lawyer for general, that would be 3 lawyers, and that would certainly be well over $60,000.
And I guess my question becomes, so this is basically a contract with Lozano Smith to authorize that not to exceed $60,000 with them?
The authorization the board is providing authorization to the administration not to exceed $60,000. The contract is, with Lozano Smith, is if we utilize their service, that we agree to that rate, those rate schedules that they provide us. That's the contract. And then the authorization that the board provides to the administration is not to exceed $60,000.
Can I say something else? It used to be at one time, the only time we went out to someone like Lozano Smith was really just for property. It's my understanding at that time, they weren't being paid until we did sell the property. So my question is, we're paying them even though we haven't sold,
It's an attorney that doesn't get paid at that point.
Yeah, we.
I hear that.
No,
Could
we
you
do
repeat
pay,
that?
we pay them as we utilize their services. The realist and everybody's paid as they utilize their service, as we utilize their services. And when we charge it to an account that when the property is sold or leased or whatever, that is charged first. So essentially, we are lending that fund money until there's money in that fund to pay back. Is that correct?
Okay, so does that mean that they get less payment at the end when the property is actually sold? Because
They
they do
don't.
get, don't they get some sort of?
No.
No, just
Get
as
no
we
commission.
use their services,
So
they
they-
bill
they
us
get nothing else
on
at
a
the
monthly
end?
to quarterly basis, yeah.
Okay.
And just
Strictly based on their services that they provide at an hourly
Because
rate. There's no
they've-
commission.
They've been working for us for an awful many years, and we haven't gotten too far on the property, although I think we're coming to the end.
We've come almost as far as we can go.
Yeah.
A couple months away.
I'd like to know myself if I could find out just how much has been spent.
Oh, sure, we can certainly get that
And then we
information
can
to you.
compare how much we're really going to make at the end.
Yes, and one thing you do need to know is at least in the last 5, certainly 10 years, special education and litigation costs have gone up, not just in our district, but across the state, and so there's more litigation going on and more needs for legal services in the areas of special education.
I would really like to see it broken down so we can see what was paid for each category.
Yeah, certainly, you can
Because
get that information.
that's why
Yeah.
I initially said, at one time, we didn't utilize them for all the services. Now, we're doing everything with them.
Yeah,
So
we do-
I'd like to
yeah.
see it broken down so we
Yeah,
know.
we can get that, and I'd be happy to
Because we're not
provide
going to
that.
get any reimbursement for the other stuff out of selling the property. It's only going to be when they work on the property.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to see how much that difference is.
Yep, happy to provide that.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
We made it?
All right,
Board
so-
resolution number
Excuse me, that
30.
was an action item, so we do need a motion and a vote.
Got thrown off.
Oh, yes.
I was from the agenda.
This is for 1 year. Can I ask one other question? If this is for 1 year, what happens when we run out of that money and you need something for special ed? Then you just get it from the county?
So if we exceed, if we're getting close to the $60,000 in the given year, we would come back to the board for an increase in authorization.
Okay. Have we ever done that before?
We've never done that before.
Okay.
We've always been under.
Okay. I'm ready now.
Well, I'm not going to say never. We haven't done that in the last
Yet?
2 to
Yet.
3 years that I've been aware of this, yeah.
Okay.
Is there a way to lower the threshold to that number? So then we don't get locked into an amount. So say, for example, if we've only spent $20,000 to $30,000, do we have to go to the $60,000 level? Even though we could always come back and say, okay, we need another $30,000.
So I do not need authorization to spend up to $35,000, so above 35 and is where I need board authorization for spending.
Yep.
So, again, you need to, we do not utilize these services freely. We do realize it as a cost to the district, and we utilize them conservatively and only when we need to. And so we felt the $60,000 level would be well within range and something that is worth coming to the board for. But we will get the amounts to you of what we've spent.
Understood. So I motion to approve agreement with Lozano Smith for general legal and surplus property legal services for fiscal year 2013-2014.
Second motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Board resolution.
Board Resolution Number 13-06-12, Tier 3 Categorical Flexibility Transfer for fiscal year 2013-14.
And this is what we had the public hearing for. This is, we've done this every year since we've had the flexibility ability. And it is likely that, of course, we won't even need this once the budget is passed and the categorical programs go away. But in case the budget is not passed the way we're all thinking it's going to be, then in order for us to even receive these funds, we have to pass this resolution, or we're not allowed to spend the money and we'd have to send it back.
All right. So I move that we pass this resolution for a Tier 3 Categorical Flexibility Transfer for fiscal year 2013 and 14.
Second motion.
And we need a roll call for this.
Mrs. Brizuela,
Aye.
Mr. Otidy,
Aye, and I'm glad to spend the money and not give it back.
Mr.
Aye.
Ali,
Aye.
Thank you.
Presentation of the year, fiscal year 2013-14 Budget Development Presentation.
Good evening. Back again. And yes, I do know that there is Common Core money that we can expect, but it is not in this budget. If you go back to the May 22nd governor's budget presentation that I made and the assumptions that we were going to use for this current year budget, until legislation actually passes a state budget, by law, we are still under the revenue limit, and there is not a budget passed at this point. And when a budget is passed, of course, we will be changing it, but not before the adoption of this one. There won't be time to do that. So,
Technology.
should I try it there? Haha, okay. So in building the 13-14 budget, we have to use budget assumptions. And as I was saying, we are going to be using the revenue limit assumption because that is still law until the new budget is passed. So the local control formula funding formula is not going to be used in this budget, the adoption of this budget. We will be changing it when it happens, but there is no time to change it between the time it's passed and the year end where we have to adopt here. But we are going to be including COLA, 1.565% COLA, which is 101 per student per 88 in the budget year, the 2013-14. We are also going to include COLA in all the out years. School Services of California and the County Office of Ed have basically recommended, and the County Office of Ed basically told us, that we need to figure out under which formula, the local control funding formula or the revenue limit formula, would we be making less money? Will we be receiving less money? And that is the one that we're supposed to be using, the more conservative approach. With the local control funding formula, we will be getting more funds, so we are using the revenue limit. And this is so in addition, the deficit factor would reduce if we were to go with the revenue limit formula, and that would bring us an additional 4.285%. And like I said, we're going to have also the COLA in the out years. With this happening, if we were to remain with the revenue limit, we would then get 81 cents on the dollar instead of the 78 cents on the dollar that we have been getting. And so the budget is being based on 81 cents on the dollar, which I know we laugh. It is an improvement. It does bring us more money. It actually brings us about $1.2 million more money. So, however, because this whole thing is very fictional and a moving target, and because these additional funds, if we get them, are likely to be highly restricted until the budget actually passes, we are going to put that 1.2 million extra dollars. We're going to reserve it. We're going to recognize the revenue, but we're going to reserve it as called state adoption reserve. So when we go to change the budget, when the budget is adopted by the state, we'll make the appropriate changes, and we'll know, does it belong in restricted, does it belong in unrestricted, are we going to get it, are we not going to get it, how much will it be, and such. In the meantime, we're just going to reserve it. So some more assumptions, we're basing it on 180 school days without any furlough days. Their step and column is included. No salary increases outside of step and column are included in the adopted budget. We're still negotiating. We have not come to terms yet, so it is not actually in the budget as you see it. Additionally, the medical benefits cap will revert back to the $700 per employee per month for all employees in the district, because we had a one-time fix. That fix is over for now. And so, as we said, we're continuing to negotiate, and we will look at these possibilities as we do that. Reinstatement of the $20 per ADA for site discretionary funds. This is to support the Common Core standards, state standards. The sites do need that. And then we had a lot of talk about technology and the need for computers in order to take classes. So we have a one-time